not to go up that trail. He said I should be nervous, that I might come back a different man. Not at all, not at all. Come on down from Shaker Mountain, shake for me one more time. Won't you come on down from Shaker Mountain, shake right by my side.
Welcome back, it's Chris from the Hagon factory. This week's video, B31 engine rebuild. Peter Stevens has volunteered his time to rebuild this engine. Pete's got a little bit of attachment to this engine. He actually owned it over 50 years ago. So he wants to get it up and running again. So this is a great help to us. It'll go in the BSA slider. So between Pete and the old man, they'll get this thing running. It's going to be fantastic. So we'll have a look at that. There's going to be a bit of history all the way through this video, a few laughs, and these blokes, they can talk all day about this stuff. So I might have cut it off at the end a bit, but there's going to be more videos. This is only part one. So let's have a look.
Righto. Now, Peter, this engine that was in the slider bike that we got off Derby Knight's son, Steve, you originally had this motor in a road racer, and you reckon it had a featherbed frame.
I do. I reckon it's a Norton frame. And what sort of half convinced me that to be the case is that I followed this 350 up with a Norton featherbed frame bike with a Manx frame, and it had a set of road holder forks with discs, and I put them into the bike that engine was in and raced it at Calder, I reckon, with that disc brake front end.
Okay, they would have been probably a very, very early set of disc brakes.
Well, they were girling disc brakes, and they may as well not have been on the bike. They were terrible.
Okay.
They looked impressive, but they didn't do a lot.
Okay. Get going.
I was going to say, luckily, it had a proper Manx conical hub on the back, which was a reasonable
brake.
Yeah, helped me. Not that I went that fast.
But I remember this engine being in that frame. And I remember Brian Clark riding it at a sprint meeting. I think it was over near Newstead, or it was near Cancarran. I remember there was water there. You could see the water.
Well, did they ever race around the Cancarran car park or something like that?
Not that I ever remember.
No.
But anyway, and then you obviously bought this bike off Brian Clark.
Yeah, as a goer.
As a complete going bike.
Yeah.
And there was a few stories about the motor, like apparently nobody seems to be 100% sure who built the motor, but I was always told it was Gold Star specifications.
Yeah, and having it back here and having the opportunity, thanks to you guys, to reacquaint myself with it, I can distinctly remember the flywheels being polished, and it seems pretty scary to me now to think that I would have even got it to that point where I've disassembled it to see the flywheels, because they were polished. And I can remember, the rockers, the polished on the polished
the rockers were quite
and everything.
Well polished. We were on about die-cut Y alloy pistons a while ago when we did Ian McLeod's Velo.
Yeah, we were.
And we pulled the Velo down. I said, look, it's got an old die-cut Y alloy piston in it.
Yeah.
Of course, the bees, guess what it's got?
It's got the same.
It's got a die-cut Y alloy piston. It's a high comp one because this bike always ran on methanol. So it's a fairly high comp piston. That's probably a 9-to-1 or something like that. Just at a guess, maybe a bit more, maybe 9.5-to-1 or something. But then anyway, somehow or other, the engine was purchased, the engine and gearbox, which was supposed to be a close ratio gearbox that was borrowed off a fellow and never returned.
Yeah, well, he's long gone, but it's ours now.
He'll be on your case looking for it.
Anyway, it's supposed to have been borrowed, and the fella jumped up and down because the bike was sold with it in and he didn't get it back. Anyway, Stewie Diss, a long-time friend of mine and a Velocet guru, he finished up with this engine and the close ratio gearbox, which he built into this frame. He tried a Velo engine, a pretty standard Mack Velo engine first, and he said it lacked power. So he bought this engine, and I assume he bought it off you.
Yeah, well, I reckon Stewie's probably a bit down. Like I certainly crossed paths with Stewie along the line somewhere.
Yeah.
And it would have been way back in the 70s then.
Yes, it was.
I haven't seen him since.
Yeah, well, it was back in the 70s because when he fitted this engine and the gearbox into that frame, I was fortunate enough to have a few rides on it, and Chris has actually found a couple of old photos of me actually riding this bike with this engine in it.
Well, you might be able to date it because you had an SL 100 there on the day, or SL 125.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that would be...
Does that help you?
Yeah, it does a bit. I reckon it was fairly early in the piece. I reckon it was like 73 or 4.
Yeah, okay.
About then.
We all had that, didn't we? SL 100.
Yeah. Anyway, so I reckon it was in the was definitely pre-75, like it was 73 or 4 or something like that when I had that bike. That little SL, it had racing numbers on it. I rode that they had one speedway meeting at Bort, or a short circuit meeting at Bort, and I rode it there, and I caused a bit of havoc up there on that. I stood it straight up on the back wheel on the start-finish line when they all dropped the clutch. Yeah. And I toppled over sideways and took out half a field. I wasn't that popular that day.
Popular, yeah.
But anyway, that's another story. So what we've done is Peter's pulled this engine down pretty well, and it has a few issues, but nothing really huge. The crank and everything's good. All the bottom end's good. The cases are good.
It was only turning over 180 degrees.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just quickly talk about that?
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, well, when Peter pulled it down, he found out why, because it had a rust ring in the barrel, because it had been left out in the weather, and some rust had got down the inlet port and put some water down the barrel.
Oh, some water had got, it had gone in that.
Yeah. And it rusted a ring around.
Don't like small talk or crowded sidewalk. She don't like small talk. She don't like to say a lot, but she don't mind restful, sacred mornings, listening to the rain.
I have the piston removed now and pin, and giving the combustion chamber and the valves a bit of a clean, looking a lot better. And I've been busy today making one big bit into a lot of smaller bits, and made some progress. Got the crankcase in half now, and the cam's out. Got the piston off, and got a fair bit of it done. Got the rockers out of the head, so the rockers have been removed out of there, and so it doesn't look too bad inside. I'll just tip it over and give you a look in that side where all the balance and efforts have been made.
Yeah. It would turn that way and that way, but it wouldn't go past the rust ring.
Well, I'm sure Steve Knight said that Darby left it outside leaning against the fence post for years.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
And the carbies would have been predominantly with a big funnel on the end of it.
I don't know whether I made that up or not, but I think Steve told me that.
No, that'd be right. Yeah. That'd be right. When I showed Chris a couple of photos of me riding the bike, I said, I wonder where it is now. So he put them up on YouTube. And we get a phone call from Steve Knight. He said, I've got that bike. He said, it's been down here for 40 years.
Yeah.
And
so that's
only a 10-year window, doesn't it then? Like if it's 50 since I've had it.
Yes. And it was only about 3 k's from my house.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable. And anyway, we sort of know Steve a bit, and he's fairly easygoing sort of guy, and we had a chat to him and did offer to buy it off him, and he said no. Yeah. And I said, well, look, if you change your mind down the track, I said, give me a ring. Anyway, I don't know how much later it was, probably nearly a year.
Yeah, it would have been.
And he
rang up. Another big project on the go, which is very nice. Yep.
Yeah, and he rang us up and he said, if you want that bike, you better come and get it. And I said, right. So I scooted down and bought it off him, and
Because from going back to the when I had it, like I felt that it went pretty well. Like
Yeah.
I reckon I did better when I was the Triumph. We're going to touch on that later, but you know, I reckon I did better with the 350, probably in a different class because
Yeah.
in this. Yeah.
But they do go on
Old
methodology.
B33s and B31s.
Yeah.
You still see a few of those racing. They're highly compressed and they're running on methanol.
Yeah.
And they go really hard.
Yeah.
They really
There's that
do.
one that goes over to Mount Tower.
Yeah.
And it flies.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they go all right.
Yeah.
And I remember them, like in my day, there was in the early days when I used to go to a lot of the races and that. B31s and 33s and that were pretty quick.
So what's it? The 31 is the 350.
Yeah, that's the 31.
And the 33 then's the 500.
Yeah. So
Do they share anything?
yeah, just about everything. You
Everything.
can make the 350 into a 500.
Yeah, same
Oh,
with me.
right.
Yeah.
So just change
Head
the
and
barrel.
barrel. Head and barrel.
Head and barrel.
Yeah. That's what.
Yeah.
You can put a head and barrel on.
Yeah.
No problem.
So that means the crankcase is obviously the same. with
Crankcase.
the same
And I
bolt
think
pattern.
the crank's pretty much the same too.
So
I
do
think.
they have the same head stud
Arrangement.
arrangements, which I've
Yep.
found quite the fact that bit screws into the crankcase, and that as you're undoing it out of the head, it drops down into that.
Yep.
Into the rest.
It's a fairly clever idea.
It is a clever idea. It is. Yeah.
Yep.
But, I know they took some getting out of the crankcases, so I was half thinking I'll leave them in there, let Al get them out.
Yeah.
But,
Bit of heat.
Yeah.
no, I don't think. Well, Al and aluminium and heating was down just the other day.
Yeah.
We tried to get that nut out of the timing case, but it didn't.
I remember riding this bike out sort of Raywood Way on this dirt road when Stewie just
Had it.
and was on methanol, and we had found one really nice left-hand bend,
Yeah.
and
The end.
we spent most of the afternoon
Going around that one.
going
bend.
around the one left-hand bend.
Yeah.
And but I remember it went pretty well.
Yeah.
And it was sweet, like it ran really nicely and it
Yeah.
started easily.
Yeah.
Just give it a push and away it went.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
It's a funny setup because it's still got all the Velo gearbox plates and that, and the hole's so big, the gearbox looks so small in the hole. I don't know how it all straps together. We'll work that out later on.
Yeah. It's, it's a bit of a hodgepodge of parts at the moment, but
We'll use those plates and all that, but we might just add a couple of plates to.
yeah, we'll straighten it all up.
Yeah.
We'll have that going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll go.
Yeah.
And so Peter's
Yeah. So I had a
tinkering. So.
If we go chronologically, Alan pulled the valves out and determined that the exhaust valve guide was a little bit on the worn side. So we've made a replacement, and I've never machined anything to the tolerances that it required to be machined to, but we're not even sure whether it's it's definitely too big.
It took a while.
Well, that's all right.
Which is the good. So that's the good news.
Lucky getting paid by the hour off that.
So it's definitely too big. It won't go in the hole,
Yeah, beautiful.
which is lovely.
Yeah,
And then we put the inlet valve had a slight mark on the side, a little blemish on the side there that you might see.
Yeah, you can see that. Yep.
Yep. And we figured that it had clashed with the exhaust valve,
Yeah, it
or
looked like it tipped the valve.
yeah, just that they'd hit each other.
And it
Yeah.
put a little
And,
woof in both the
They
valves.
they both had quite a, well, I don't know what a bad bend is, but they were bent.
Any bend is bad.
Yeah, and that defines the bend. If you can see it, it's bad.
Yeah.
So what we did was we had a grip right out on the end of the valve in the chuck, and it was wobbling away.
Yeah.
And then Al said, "Well, grab it up here, and just see whether the actual heads got bent up close." But it wasn't, was it? It was good.
Yeah.
So we gripped it in a couple of different places along, and till we got back out to the original position, and then I just used a block of wood and a hammer and tapped on the side.
Yep.
And we've got the exhaust valve, the inlet valve I did with a block of wood and a hammer. The exhaust valve's got a thicker stem by a fair bit, and I reckon it was a long way, had a bigger bend in it than the inlet did. And I tried and tried and tried, and I reckon I'd had it right. I got it within about whatever 10 divisions are on those on the dial indicator. 0.01 per division, so whatever 0.1 of a mil, 0.01 of a mil would be, would it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Whatever. It was meter and a needle, and then I'd give it a tap. It's warm and it's gone. It's doing a full rev, you know. And I thought, oh, well, that hasn't done any good. Yeah. So and I end up pushing the lathe tool post dial. I just used the cross slide as a means of
just push it across a bit.
Yeah, and it was should have done that in the start.
Is it? You reckon they're both pretty straight?
Oh yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
Look, see what I can do with them now though to correct any issues. I can put them in my valve facer.
Yes.
And that'll get the head spinning with the stem.
Yeah.
So
Well, that
unless you want to have a go at that, because we've got two of those as well. Two valve faces.
I don't extend.
I'll just take my home and do it. Take me 10 minutes to do it.
I don't want to extend my skill level too high. I'm not feeling I'm batting outside me.
Talking about dial gauges, when I started up that 350 Velo that I failed on, I put the dial gauge, I clamped a bit of steel to the frame, I put the dial gauge on it, and then I put the pointer on the engine plates, and when I revved her up, it was like a tacho. The bike was bending in the middle.
Launched it into low Earth orbit, as they say. So the valves, I reckon, are good. Our exhaust new guide, I reckon, is okay.
Yep.
So
as long as it's a bit bigger than the hole, because we can always make it smaller.
Well, that's what
you can't make it bigger.
No, that's right, and that was why I was quite happy to pull up stops there. You know, obviously we've got a long way a lot of material to take out of it, because I think it was a 64th under the 3.8.
Oh, yeah.
That is, So that's what I drilled it at.
Yep.
So we just got that.
Well, I've got all the reamers. I've got plenty of adjustable reamers of all sizes. I've got I've got 3/8 and 5/16 ones, a quarter, and
what's the head look like? What's the underside of the head look like?
Well, we're in the fight under it.
Pete's done a good tidy up on it. It was quite rusty. He's done quite a good tidy up on that. And the valve seats, I think they look okay.
Yeah, the valve seat we reckon had. I felt when I tried one of your cutters in it, that it's got like a little lip on that inside edge of it.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is take that off.
Yeah, and you suggested that, but my social life's been.
Oh yeah, well just the Dremel, and just take a little bit off of the Dremel.
Too hectic. Yeah,
and that way the cutter will go down in there.
Yeah, go down in there, and that was that. I've never ever had even a cutter in my hand before, but it felt like that's what it was doing. It was,
so it was hanging up on it.
It was hanging on that little tiny ridge, and the ridge is only And
what you can do then too is if you cut the seat and the seat's a bit wide,
go another angle.
You can go or you can come straight down from the top. I've got like a cutter that will come down from the top and take and
because
narrow the seat down.
Some valve seats, don't they have two angles?
They do, but but these old things, they were just mainly just 45.
45, because 45 I noticed your cutters were, one of them I reckon was 45 and the other
38.
38, yeah. And I thought, oh well, that's what that's for.
Yeah. You know, you can do that. You can there's several ways around it, but the main thing is don't get the seat too wide.
No.
And if you do get it too wide, we can trim it down. Yeah. So that's all right. Yeah. So that's all looking pretty good, mate. Yeah, that's all.
So you in the picture that I saw of it, it has a carby.
Yep.
You've got that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of carbies there. I've got a couple of couple.
What about the exhaust?
the exhaust looks pretty horrible.
It does,
it's
doesn't
a
it?
Gold Star shaped pipe, actually.
Is it?
Because the way it
Yeah,
sort of comes down, that's
yeah.
what a Gold Star pipe.
What we might do, it's got a fair crush in it to get one of the bends, but we might have a chat to Will.
Yeah, might get the guy that did that welding for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
He can also do pipes and everything. So
Yeah.
And we might get him to just take that crushed piece out,
and put it in
Yeah, well, that was
and
what
we'll
I
use the rest of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've never done it, but I've seen, where they drill a hole at the back of where the crush is and knock it back out and then weld that
Weld the
hole.
hole
Yeah,
up.
I think the bad crush in it was to get that bend around.
Yeah.
the
Somebody's
cover.
given her a bit of a kink,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, just to get around the timing cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll proceed with that. That's no
Yeah.
problem.
Now the piston had a mark in it too, didn't
The
it?
piston. Yeah, well, see what's happened.
Just
I reckon
a
it's been over revved. You can do sort of post-mortems on things. You know what I mean? And it looks like that valve, as Peter pointed out.
Yep.
It's tapped just there. See? Can you see that?
Yeah, you can see that.
Now,
Yep.
I'd say what's happened, somebody has over-revved it and it's got up a bit of valve bounce.
Yep.
It's hit the piston and the valves have clipped each other and that's
Yeah.
why they...
I reckon I can remember the day I did that.
Excellent.
I missed the
Yeah,
gear.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go. That'll do it every time.
Yeah.
I was going from first into second and boom, missed it.
Yeah, well that would probably do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll own up.
yeah, all right.
That was me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so... but everything else, we'll get there with it. I'm going to try and locate another cylinder for it. If I can't, well, we'll do something with this one. But
I've already made a couple of inquiries in town anyway.
Yep.
So we'll see how we go with that.
All right, no problem.
Did you say you found?
I'm working on it.
Oh, you're working on it.
Working
Yeah.
on it, yep.
Yeah, we'll see.
So
how
I might-
Be interesting, and I don't know this from experience. Our mutual friend Aaron mentioned the fact that the piston's going to be going past any pits that are in the bore at a rapid rate of knots, and probably not going to have any adverse effect.
I probably won't, but
No, it's just the thought of it.
yeah, but
It is.
I like to do things pretty right.
Yeah, yeah.
But the only thing with the pits that are in that barrel, there's a patch about that
Yeah,
size.
right. Yeah, I haven't.
And I've tried to sand it out, and you can't, I don't know, I've had a fair go at it.
Yeah.
And I've run the hone through it a lot of times. It's really unfortunate because
It's that
where it's been good,
Yeah.
where I've honed it,
Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but it's got these marks in it, you know.
We'll come up with a barrel.
Yeah, yeah.
The modification that's been done to these,
Yeah.
and I think that one there's more obvious than the one
Yeah.
closer.
You can see they've been stick welded. They've been arc welded, haven't they? They've been built
Yeah,
up. They've been
yeah.
built up with weld, and they've been ground. Now, Vic Sarong. Let's talk about him.
Vic. Yeah.
Now he was an old guy that lived down in Newport.
Yep.
And he worked at the railway workshops down there.
Yeah.
But his office was in the Steam Packet Hotel in Williamstown. And if you wanted to contact him, you had to ring there between probably 4:30 and 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
Sounds
because
like my kind of bloke.
Yeah.
6 o'clock closing in those days.
Yeah. But he was the cam guru and that. And
Well, I reckon did he do the balancing too?
he probably did. But
Or was that other mysterious bloke that I can't remember his name
don't
was the
know.
balancer?
don't know, I'm not sure about that. But Vic was well known to hand grind cams. He hand ground
Yeah.
cams to various profiles, and he did it in his spare time at the railway workshops. Apparently,
Lunch break.
he do it any time. I think.
Night shift.
Yeah, but yeah, and I know people that had cams made by him, and Stewie, who we mentioned before, he had
Yeah.
a set of Velocet cams made.
Yeah, but I've never had cams made, yet I had dealings with him. I can remember ringing that pub
Yeah.
and having to go down there and me parcel was waiting for me on the bar.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
the thing with him is he was obviously a very, very clever bloke,
Yeah.
but he seems to not write very many mentions. Like in Old Bike Magazine Australia, I've seen his name mentioned once
Yeah.
and once only.
He might have just been a bloke that sort of flew under the radar a bit, you know, like went about his job and was good at it. And
he must have done a lot of work for people in Bendigo.
Well, he did.
Because his name comes up all the time around Bendigo.
Yeah, I know he did a bit for Stewie, and I got a feeling that he might have done something for Phil Baker too.
Yeah, right.
At one stage, because I remember they went down there one night to catch up with him to pick up some stuff. But I remember he certainly did some Velocet.
It would have been a great trip, wouldn't it?
I'm over here laughing.
An exciting trip. Yeah. Probably did have made it home for a couple of days. No, but anyway, I'd like to know a little bit more. So if anybody knows anything about
Vic
Charong, let us know.
Yeah.
We really want to know about him. I would imagine he's long gone now.
Send us a message.
Yeah, and we'd like to know a bit about him and get his name up there because he was famous in motorcycle circles. Yeah, so we'd like to find out more about him if we can. Okay,
Excellent.
so those cams, like I don't know who did them, but that would be what I think his cams would look like.
And we saw another set like that at the swap meeting, didn't we? Some Velo ones.
Yeah, we saw some Velo ones, and
which we should have got.
Which we should have got. Peter might still have those.
Yeah.
I might ring Peter and see if he's still got them. But he had a set of cams that were built up like that, and they could be Vic Charong ones too. But anyway, that's
so
we've got the polished rockers.
The polished rockers that someone has put a lot of effort in.
They have, haven't they?
That is just beautiful, you know, to think that it's lasted the years that it has.
Yeah.
They've done a really good job of that.
Yeah, I still don't know who originally built the motor. I have heard rumours that Fane Isles might have had some involvement in it, but I don't even know that for sure.
Yeah.
There's no guaranteed proof of that.
No.
If it hadn't been parked outside, there wouldn't have been much to do, really,
No.
would there?
No. It was sitting out in the weather.
Yeah.
But considering that, you know, like the I haven't cleaned it.
No.
I might have put them in some degreaser or whatever to get the oil off them, but they're beautiful still.
Well, we've got some photos when we took the cover off the day we took
that's right.
It's as clean as anything,
Yeah, it is clean. Yeah. But I don't think there's much more we can say about this just at the moment.
No, what we've got here is...
Yeah, we're waiting. We're just going to wait on a few other bits and pieces to happen. But,
I've given that the
Pete's given that a
old
good
BSA
polish.
logo on there, and I give that a little bit of a clean.
Yeah, tidy up, yep.
We're probably going to need that compression.
The gland seal. I suppose you call that.
Gland seal in there.
Yeah, well, when we get the gasket set, that'll probably be in it.
Yeah, let's hope
You see, they've got this, see in there, Chris, there's a rubber seal in there.
Yeah.
That gets squashed up.
I don't know too much about these things, really, because I haven't been overly involved in birds or singles. But I'm starting to like what I see, though. I think they're not a bad motor.
Well, you need to go around and see Chris O'Mara.
Yep.
And he's got a heap of these things.
Yep.
So he'd be worth having a chat to as well.
Okay, no problem. All right. Okay, so can we move on to your 8-valve Triumph now?
Yeah, so after I sold this, I bought a Manx Norton frame. I reckon it was advertised in the advertiser. It was down in Castlemaine.
Yeah.
In a garage on the right hand side going in this side of the town, and it was a chrome Manx Norton frame. It had so I don't know. I don't think Manx has come in that wide line or slim line, but it was definitely the wide what I'd class as a wide line frame, and it had the big aluminium tank that hung over the sides.
Yep.
And it had the really nice alloy wheels, Acront, I think they are.
Acront rims, that's
Acront
correct.
rims, and the proper magnesium conical Manx rear hub, which is a beautiful piece of...
Yeah, lovely.
Lovely, yeah. But someone had put a pair of, what did I say before? Girling discs on the front, which were less than effective. Yeah, so it's a pity that it didn't have the conical hub, because it would have been
far better.
Yeah. So it came with a Norton gearbox and a pre-unit Triumph motor, and just a 650 Bonnie, pair of, I reckon, monoblocks on it. Monoblocks.
Yep.
others are concentrics.
Yep,
Yeah,
monoblocks, they were, yeah.
Monoblocks, a pair of them on it, but it had never been together. It didn't have engine plates or anything like that.
Yep.
So I bought, under someone's advice, a sheet of geranium, I think it was, a fairly big piece of that, and set about making the engine plates, gearbox plates, and had them mounted that all up in that frame, and I must have raced it for a period in that form, and then I bought Frank Musset down in Sydney Road, Brunswick. I think that's where it was.
Exactly where it was.
Exactly where it had it. He had a shop on both sides of the road.
Correct, he did.
We used to go, a group of blokes that I'm friends with now keep reminding me how many times we would go down to Elizabeth Street on Saturday mornings.
We did it all the time.
Park down there, and I can remember being there. I don't remember the rides, you know, but
I remember going down there a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, in Frank Musset's window, in this polystyrene box that had turned yellow from that period age of the sunlight that had been getting on it, and every time I went in there, I thought, geez, I'd love to have that. That'd be just. Anyway, I ended up buying it and converted the Bonneville into the 8 valve, and I had to make a set of pipes for it. Fortunately, all the engine plates and everything was the same. So just
nothing
made
to change anything.
Yeah, and I can remember the first exhaust pipe I made. I bought the 2 pipes down and put a collector underneath and run it straight at the back tyre. And the first meeting, I think I got picked up for that. They said, "Oh, you know, that's no good. You can't be running out there with the exhaust blowing straight onto your back tyre."
It spits out a bit of oil.
Yeah. So, anyway, that got altered a little bit. I think the pipes that came with it, let's take a step back to the conventional motor, were upswept pipes. Yep. And they were a pair of and they were chrome, and they had chrome reverse cone megaphones on them that sat up. And
nice.
They looked beautiful, and it sounded really good. And I was living home with Mum and Dad, and had a workshop up behind their house, and I'd be up there at all hours of the night toiling, you know, playing around on the bike, and I'd put it all back together and think, oh, I wonder how it's going, you know, and I'd have a look outside, moonlight night, you know, so I'd push it down the side, head towards Bendigo, and I'd get to the top of the hill, and then I'd bump start it, and I'd ride down to the Reservoir Hotel, turn around in front of the reservoir, and then I'd come back up and I'd pull the clutch in just before Mum and Dad's and roll past them, and then go on out to Strath. But no,
you wouldn't get away with that now, mate. That's suburbia.
I know. Well, yeah, you're right. It is suburbia now. I'd have to stop at the lights down there.
Yeah, traffic lights as well.
Traffic lights. But I think there's traffic lights in front of Mum and Dad's house now, at the school.
Yeah, by
the way. But anyway, so that then when I progressed to the 8 valve, and the extra compression, and back in those days was bump starts. You know, you'd all stand out there and push.
I did plenty of those. I can remember doing plenty of those.
Yeah, and I was that good a rider. I was always managed to be in the back row, and and it was when the advent of the 2-strokes come in, and those guys would be sitting astride the bike.
Yeah, they paddle it.
2 paddles, and away they'd go, and they'd all be heading into the first corner, and I'd be thinking I'm just about up to fast enough to hop on and give it a bump and see what had happened. But invariably locked up, and almost getting out of their way for their first lap.
You'd be absolutely physically destroyed.
You were
going without riding the thing.
It's hard. It was hard work, and to top it off, I can remember the clutch input shaft had a bit of a bend in it, and it didn't help. You know, because the clutch used to wobble and then it bind up, hang up on it a bit. But so my road racing career was fairly short-lived and pretty non-event. Brian Clark, that we think we bought this off, or you bought, or come from him. He borrowed my 8-valve Triumph and raced it. You thought colder, I think, at an airfield somewhere and it was when Agostini, it was the meeting that Agostini rode at in Australia, wherever that meeting, it was somewhere down.
It was Avalon.
Yeah.
Avalon, but didn't he ride it? Did he ride it colder once though, Agostini? I think he did.
Yeah.
I think he did.
We'll have a look. We'll look it up.
Yeah, well, that's all right. But then in return, and Brian offered me a ride on his Tribza.
Yep.
And I took that up, and I rode that at Calder, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was sitting up, big bars, and I did the best I've ever done in a race. You know, I think I got 13th.
Yep.
Out of a field, and
Big
you know what
field.
the fields were like.
Well, like 40 bikes.
Yeah, 40 plus.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I was up the right end for a change. It was quite strange for me because, you know, like I'm not used to
I've got some photos of that bike.
have that Tribza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that bike, like, we're
Digressing.
We are, but,
yeah, but that's all right.
but that bike, in about 1970, probably 2, I rode over to Mount Gambier
Yeah.
for the road races
Mac Park.
at Mac Park, and
Yep.
Brian was there with that bike,
Yes.
and he's on like the second row, I think,
Yep.
and Bill Horseman was on the front row
Yeah.
on a brand new TZ Yamaha 350. And anyway, they were just about to take off, and the rain started sprinkling down. Well, I could nearly see the smile on Clark's
Yeah, on
face.
Clarky's face. Yeah.
He's sitting up on this Tribza with his big high handlebars.
Yeah.
Well, he took off and he led him into the first corner. It was running on 1.5 cylinders, just going bam, ba bam, ba bam.
Yeah, 'cause
and
got
he's
a bit
pulling away. He's pulling away.
Yeah.
And anyway, he won easily
Yeah.
in the rain on this thing. He beat everything, all comers on it.
Yeah.
But he was a bit of a local hero though, wasn't he, Clark? Brian
Over
Clark.
there.
Oh yeah, he was here.
Oh,
Local,
yeah, here
you
he
know,
was,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and a couple of weeks later, he took that bike to Calder, and it was still missing. And I said, having looked at it, he said, no. He said, I won on it a couple of weeks ago. I'm not touching it. anyway, he did about half a lap of Calder and it stopped.
Yeah.
And anyway, we pulled the end off the Maggie and the points fell out.
That'd do.
Righto, so as I said at the start, this is just part 1. We'll be doing updates. I can't guarantee that it'll be every week, but hopefully we'll get something out every couple of weeks on this. So we'll do our best anyway. So look, if you like what you see, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell everybody. Let's bring Hagon's back.